Hey, what's up guys? It's Billy, your WildReefKeeper, and today is Maintenance Sunday, so let me show you what I got going on here today. Right now I'm dealing with an algae plume. I know, we'll say darn well what I did to cause this. So let me share with you guys, the animals have been in the tank for 2 weeks. So I've been dialing in my dosers. I didn't quite have the runtime that I wanted before moving the animals in. So I was dialing in the doser system, and we had calcium and alk kind of flux about 0.8, not quite 1 point, but typically like over a point, pretty bad. It's kind of bad for the animals. So they weren't totally opening up. I was feeding like crazy, feeding AB, feeding live food, just really chumming up the water. Putting all kinds of food in there to try to keep them happy, and putting a bunch of acids in there to try to keep them happy during the flux, which worked. The downside of that is I didn't really have quite the nitrifying cycle established in there. So what we have now is an algae plume. So this started yesterday. The first thing I did was turn off the lights. 48 hours of darkness does a lot. Unfortunately, not so happy for my mangrove, but I think he's good. I added, here I've got the bottle here. I did a check. I have no phosphate in the tank, but I did have a nitrate that was probably like 15. I was doing this on saltwater test, but I added some algae management to that. And then later that night, there was a bunch of algae just sitting on the sand. So I stirred that up and I dosed hydrogen peroxide. It's usually 1 mil to 1 gallon, but for this tank it's so big, I went ahead and I found 12% hydrogen peroxide, and that way I only have to dose like 145, 150 milliliters. But anyways, dosed that, let everything run overnight. The tank is a lot clearer today. There is no garbage on the sand. So what I'm gonna do is a water change. Unfortunately, I'm water changing, and I just added all of my copepods from Algae Barn to a water change. So I'm not super happy about that, but they should all be in rock and found a place by now. And I'm going to go ahead and water change this and add some nitrifying cycle to this and some microbacter. And then that should kind of settle the problem. I've also halted all of AB dosing, and I'm going to feed really light to try to make this go away. So yeah. Here we go. I'm going to show you my water change process and hope you enjoy. Okay, so here we are in the garage or basement. This is a stilt home, so the garage is downstairs. So let me show you my setup real quick. This is the mixing station for the salt, and then this is my RO holding tank. Excuse the mess because I am still trying to move in. But here's our chiller. I put that down here in the garage. And so we've got an M2 pump here that supplies the mixing tank. I've got this set up so I can just fill buckets or whatever I need for RO water. So that'll go ahead and fill the mixing tank. The mixing tank has an L2 pump to get that upstairs, but it will cycle in this tank to mix the salt. Once we have our mix, then I will drain upstairs and then open the valves to shoot the water upstairs. I had them plumb in a switch for this L2 pump that's upstairs, so it's not going to turn on as a safety. The on for that is upstairs. Yes, later I'm going to probably have an apex down here and kind of automate the water change process, but this is what I've got so far. Today I'm going to do a large water change at 25%. I've got a 600 gallon system, so that's 150 gallon water change I need to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is pump the water over to get 150 in. We'll open up the valve here. I need to close my top off valve and open my mixing valve. This of course is closed, so that is good. Here. Oop, there we go. Tank is a little Okay, so I've got my water filled. Now I'm gonna go upstairs, turn on that pump before I dump my salt in, so that it doesn't clog up the pump down here. I have to add that slowly. So for 150 gallons of water, I mean, I'm used to a smaller tank, so I would measure in cups. Well, I need about 4.5 gallons of Red Sea salt. Now, this is actually, they say it's 200 gallons per bag. From my experience, yeah, at 200 gallons, it'll make it at like 1.020. It's not gonna be quite the 1.025 mix that we need for a mixed reef. So I'm gonna dump just about this whole bag in there, or even to test that theory, let's dump the whole bag in there and see what it measures out to. If it's too high, I can always lower it by adding more RO. So that'll be our daily experiment here. Okay, switch is on. Okay, so while I wait for that to mix, I'll give you a tour of my water system. So if you follow my channel, you'll know that moving into the house we had Aquageddon. Well, Aquageddon was when we started to fill the pool and the aquarium the same week. And apparently the city hired a new water management team. They added 10 times the amount of descaler into the water, and all of the iron sediment was coming off of the pipes. So they had the fire departments going around the vent hydrants, which eventually took care of the problem. So I went through 2 RO systems. I've gone through, so I've got what is this? This is the 9-stage RO from Bulk Reef Supply. My 2 resins will make roughly 150 to 200 gallons of water before they need to be replaced. So as you can see, the color's completely changed on one. I'm gonna half empty one. It looks like the bottom half is good. To combat this, I've got a whole house water sanitizing system below and water softener. So hopefully this batch is gonna last a little bit longer, but I think I went through, well, the rust clogged 3 sets of membranes, and I mean, I went through several, probably 5 or 6 full sets of filters just to get 600 gallons when all of this was going on. So that's why we refer to it as Aquageddon. After Aquageddon, right now I used a ton of water, so I'm gonna switch these out. And I also have a pressure pump on there to help make the water quickly. My sediment is super clean. It should be with the whole house water system. It looks like my carbon are okay. And then the membranes are up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch those out while I wait for my water to mix and create a fresh batch of RO. Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar or curious about the Bulk Reef Supply RO system, on the resin filters, it's actually just a little canister. The bottom screws off. There's a little sponge in there, and you just refill them with resin bags. This is a full sediment filter. And then carbon filters, so those just slide in there. The whole thing fills with water. Up top, these connect to those fittings and push water through this canister. So when the resin changes color, you know that the resin has absorbed all that it can hold, then it needs to be replaced. So I'm gonna replace that quick. Okay, so I've reset my resin, fresh resin there, and it's always good to kind of run your lines a little bit. This drain is open. I'm just draining the water right now. The in is 35. The out is 1. Now, it's down to 33. That's pretty good. Before it was like in the 600s. So what I want to do is my line 3 is my out. and that's still at 1. I'm gonna wait for that to go to 0, and as you can see, everything's still filling here. So while that fills, let me show you what we had to install downstairs to protect my RO system for the tank. Okay, so this is the water line into the house. What I did first was install this Aquasana system. This actually has a pre-sediment, full sediment filter here. Then there's a salt-free water conditioner in these two, a post filter, and then a UV sterilizer. So that worked great. However, I was still getting some hard water stains, so I installed a full salt water softener to kind of save all the fixtures and the shower tile and whatnot. So that's my whole house system that feeds the whole house, and then that RO upstairs. So hopefully with all this down here, that's going to save a lot of those filters I've been replacing every kind of 150 gallons. So we will see. Okay, so here we are back at the mixing station. I've gone ahead and measured the salt content with my RedSea refractometer. And of course, I'm calibrating using accuracy. I measured upstairs. I'm at I measured upstairs at 1.024. Now the humidity level is different in the garage from the house, which will affect the refractometer. So I recalibrate that down here. And with that one whole bag, I am at 1.021. So being 1 point low upstairs, I can be a little bit high. I could be like 1.026 or 1.027 even on the fill to try to get upstairs up that little fraction of a point. If that doesn't work, if I need more salt, I usually just add it to the sump, 2 cups at a time until I'm at the desired level. So anyways, that's my ReefKeeper tip for that one. So I'm gonna add a little bit more salt and get our mix to where we need to be. Okay, so I added 10 more cups to the vat, and now we have 35 parts per thousand, or 1.025 specific gravity. One measures the salinity content by weight in the water, I believe. So like 35 parts per thousand is 3.5%. And then the specific gravity is like salt density. It doesn't really have a specific measurement, but those are the 2 measurements that you get on a refractometer. And I just want to stress the importance of calibrating that refractometer. I mentioned I calibrated it from upstairs to down. Well, working down here, I opened the garage door over there and then recalibrated that because it was like 4 points off. So learn from my mistakes. One time when I was lazy with calibrating, I totally added way too high of a salt content mix and killed all my fish. So please learn from my mistakes. Don't want to do that again. So either way, I usually recalibrate, test the water. It's where I want. I wait about 20-30 minutes, calibrate it again just to make sure it's on point, test the water. We're stable. We're not changing. Nothing else is dissolving in there. So we are ready to go. I'm going to go upstairs and kind of dust off everything and then pull some water out of that tank. Okay, so before I drain the water, I'm gonna clean up the tank a little bit. I'm gonna start by cleaning off the glass or acrylic. I'm going to stir up the substrate. You can see a little bit of crap sitting there on the bottom. I'm gonna blow off the rocks with just my baster here. So what I'm gonna do is just go around all the areas. I see I have one guy down there I need to re-glue. But see all the things coming off of the rock. I am going to go ahead and add my hydrogen peroxide mix into the tank, clean that all up, drain the water, and then fill it. So here we go. All right, so I'm back. I've cleaned out the tank, scrubbed the glass, brushed everything off. Sponged the sides, blown off the rock, and let the tank run for a little bit. I then turned everything off, and it's funny, I'm sitting here, I'm like, how am I gonna guesstimate 150 gallons out of this tank to make sure my fill is copacetic, right? So I went ahead on Bulk Reef Supply, used their tank estimator for volume, taken the measurements from the sump. The complete sump full is 72 gallons per side, and then at operating depth, it's about 50 gallons per side with the 2 bulkheaded pieces of the sump there. So we're basically going to drain out the sump and then fill that back up and then run the tank again. So that should be pretty close to the 150 gallon volume that we have there. So one thing I want to quick mention, I've used a lot of pumps. Sea pumps are fabulous. So this is my favorite water change pump. And look how low it drains the water. It's just a super fast pump. So love those pumps if you need a good water change pump. Okay, so sump is empty. We are ready to start filling. I went downstairs and shifted those valves. We'll start the process here. Okay, so first water change is complete. This has been a long day. I've gotten a lot done. Water is a lot clearer. I've got these lights on just for you now. I'll actually probably give these guys some light for the rest of the day. Should have gotten most of that algae out there. One other thing I'll say I'm doing, I slowed the flow to my UV filter, so that's going to help with the algae tremendously. I had a pretty high flow going on this UV, and I've cut that flow. It's probably at a quarter flow from probably about half to 70% flow, but everything's looking wonderful for now. And I've got some microbacter and some nitrifying bacteria from Algae Barn that I'm going to throw in there now to help establish that nitrogen cycle. And yeah, be sure to splash that subscribe button and follow me for more reef content. I love this hobby. I hope you do too. Thanks for following. Hopefully someone can find inspiration or learning or have one of their processes be easier because of me sharing my processes and just sharing the love of the hobby. So that's what this is all about. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.